Access to medical care is becoming more and more of an issue here in Guam, and it doesn't even matter if you have the ability to pay. It's getting harder to see a doctor, to get an appointment, or to get the specialty care that you need. So I want to show you a growing solution to a growing problem. They're going to go out of their way to help find you a solution. And they've been growing their clinical services. Aside from this place looking and feeling homely, like this is their waiting area. Like, I don't think that people really understand that they do full clinical services here. Like, this is one of their clinical rooms. Look how nice it is. You get your vision exam here. So do you need to see an OBGYN, get family medicine done, internal medicine done? This is all stuff that's done here at the Total Guam Foundation. And just to tell you again, this place is not for profit. This is the psychologist's office. Yes, they have a psychology department. They also do psychiatry. It's an entire mental health department that they have here on top of all the other clinical services that they provide. If you need medical care, if you're having problems getting a doctor, getting an appointment, call the Todu Guam Foundation at 649-TODU or 649-8638. You can visit them. A question I get all the time is whether if you don't have insurance or money, you can go to the Todu Guam Foundation. I probably should shoot a new commercial about that. And by the way, they're not our advertiser. It's just that we believe in them. The Rodriguezes are our friends, first of all. This is just such a wonderful service ever since they started the Todu Guam Foundation that they have provided to the community, that services that keep growing. And you don't need to have the ability to pay. They specifically exist because of the underserved. And even if you're not poor or impoverished, if you otherwise don't have the ability to access care, like for example, there are not enough obstetricians and gynecologists on this island to serve the needs of this island, go to the Todu Guam Foundation. It is 8:03 a.m. on Thursday, May 14, 2026. I learned a long time ago, being in the closet in the early 1990s, you learn that the best way to deal with an embarrassing situation is you get ahead of it, you call it out yourself. And so this is a rash on my lip. I don't know what the hell it's from. I suspect because I started to put on this nighttime and morning regimen of, I don't know what it is. My boyfriend gave it to me. It's just stuff from Korea, like some facial product. I don't know. I'm gonna stop doing it because I can't. It's itchy kind of. Anyway, I just wanted, because you're gonna see it. You're already seeing it. So let me just address it. That's not what I wanted to talk about today. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining the morning news analysis. It is the Thursday news analysis, and I woke up this morning to messages from my chats with our brothers and sisters in Saipan, and they sent over NMI News Service's coverage of a horrible thing that happened apparently yesterday. Allegedly, a contractor who was doing some post-Sinlaku debris cleaning bulldozed a latte village, and according to a man that you can hear in the background of this video, we'll play this video for you. He's identified as Herman Tudela. He says, I was telling them to stop, and they wouldn't listen to me. I mean, if this was the contractor, if the contractor did do that, there are rules about anytime you put a bulldozer to anything. And these rules exist for a whole bunch of different reasons, including preservation of archaeological sites. Like, this is our heritage. This is the heritage of the Chamorro people. And to put a bulldozer to a latte site, if that contractor is found to have done that, I don't know what the laws are in the CNMI, and I'm not even sure what the laws are in Guam. But like, let's say I was the dictator of this situation, that would be an automatic get rid of that business license and sue this person. You cannot just do that to the heritage of the Chamorro people. And apparently this guy, Herman Tudela, he was even like, stop, that's latte stones. And according to him, they didn't stop. Horrible situation. We'll bring you that video. But the two things I wanted to talk about There are actually other things I wanted to talk about this morning, including news that Senator Vince Borja is calling for the redo of the Simon Sanchez procurement. And that ain't his fault. The guy's only been in office less than 2 years. He had nothing to do with the 2023 law that started this whole thing. He had nothing to do with the evaluation committee that did the procurement scheme the way it did. And he certainly had nothing to do with the $211 million bid that Cortec ended up putting in through its bottom line. But seeing the procurement appeal, understanding the facts of the case, seeing how the kids are getting screwed again, he is calling for the redo of this thing. It's probably the smartest thing that's been said, as opposed to efforts to circumvent the procurement process and putting us, the taxpayers, on the hook for $500 million in all-in financing costs for a school that should not cost $211 million to build. We're not going to talk about that this morning. I replaced that with a wonderful editorial in the Pacific Daily News. I mean, some of the stuff wasn't fact-checked. I think they just put some of that stuff out there, I think. But most of what they're saying, it's like, yes, thank you, PDN, for saying this. Gov Guam, buy things, build things, but maintain it. And we'll bring you that full editorial because it's a wonderful editorial in the PDN today. I think that's the first thing that we'll cover. And then the second thing that we'll cover is a bill by Senator Sabina Perez. And I had to, Senator Sabina Perez and Chris Duenas, they are fond of these very technical type legislation. And so whenever they introduce things, I'm not smart. I'm not technologically capable. When you put new stuff in front of me, I'm like, I have to look it up. I have to chat GPT it. I have to ask Eleanor, that's the name of my chat GPT, for information. And so I haven't spoken with Senator Perez yet about this, but it appears like this legislation that she's introduced is a very smart way of lowering our power bill costs. We'll talk about that in the second third of this show. And then in the final third of this show, we'll bring you that video from NMI News Service. Outrageous stuff. Stick with us. On the other side of this commercial break, we will start with the PDN's editorial.
Good Morning Show with Troy Torres is brought to you by 76 Circle K Guam.
Good morning. I think at some point, pretty soon, Kandit's probably going to have to get some sort of person to handle like the traffic of these ads. They're getting a little, there's a lot, and that's not a flex. It's getting a lot for me to handle. Anyway, there's an editorial in the PDN that makes a whole lot of sense, and it's something that it's a message that needs to be amplified, especially as the government of Guam goes out on its every election year spending spree in order to do that flex that it has for the voters, that the government's finally doing something. The government is working for everybody, and so we're going to buy all this stuff and we're going to fix all this stuff only on election year. But that's for another subject. There was recent news that Gov Guam is going to purchase 40 buses for Guam Regional Transit Authority. Good job, Gov Guam. And then there was news. Did you guys see that tank that Gov Guam bought? It was like some $450,000 or $490,000 armored whatever. I don't know. It just looked ridiculous, and I have no idea. Like, it's I'm not a police officer, and I don't know what kind of dangers they go through, and the details of the dangers that they go through, especially when they do raids. I'm assuming that this armored rescue vehicle is for things like raids or where there's the propensity of gunfire or whatever. I'm not sure, but Did you see that thing? It just looks it's kind of next level. And I was getting it in my inbox all day yesterday. Like, what is this for? And I was like, I don't know. But GovGuam bought it. So this is what the PDN they wrote about those purchases recently, right? The Guam Police Department just unveiled a $490,000 armored rescue vehicle and presented months ago dozens of new police patrol vehicles, drones, and other critical equipment worth about $4.2 million. They are needed and they look impressive. Okay, so I don't know whether PDN verified the need of the $490,000 armored rescue vehicle. I think arguably objective people would agree that police vehicles, drones, and whatever this other critical equipment is, but if they're calling it critical equipment, it must be critical equipment, are needed. You know, I just don't know about that armored rescue. I'm not sure. And I don't know whether they checked it out themselves. But yes, it does look impressive. That's true. Adelup also just announced buying 40 more buses for $13 million to improve transit services across Guam. The question taxpayers should be asking is not how much they cost, but whether the government will maintain them. I love that. But we should be asking how much it costs too. That's absolutely like that's very much relevant. GovGuam has a habit of buying shiny new assets and then letting them fall apart. Continuing with the PDN article. It builds multi-million-dollar buildings, buys expensive equipment, and then skips the maintenance until things break down, become unusable, or cost far more to repair than regular upkeep would have. Let me just stop there. Have you guys seen, you guys passed by the Editorial Public Health recently, and there's that building in the front I think that was supposed to be the mosquito lab or something. It's some type of laboratory. Did you know that that was only built in the Calvo administration? You see how run down that building already looks? It looks like something that was built in the 1970s. And that hasn't been maintained. Anyway, just continuing on PDN's point, right? Continuing with their editorial. A roof leak that costs $5,000 to fix today becomes a $500,000 mold remediation project tomorrow. Black mold is not just a cosmetic problem on Guam. In this climate, deferred maintenance means mold in classrooms, government offices, hospitals, and public housing. It is a health hazard that grows worse with every month of neglect. Political leaders prefer funding new and visible projects that earn headlines over the unglamorous work of keeping what they already own in working order. So Southern High School has an Olympic-sized swimming pool that has been sitting idle for nearly 2 decades, collecting rainwater, sludge, and organisms. It's a mosquito breeding ground. Refurbishing it would cost more than $2 million, money that regular maintenance could have prevented spending. The Hagutnya Public Swimming Pool sat closed for 5 years. Government vehicles break down and sit in lots. Buildings deteriorate until they need full renovation instead of routine repair. This is fiscally irresponsible. Deferred maintenance does not save money, it multiplies costs. If GovGuam cannot maintain what it already owns, how will it maintain a new medical complex, a new high school, or even the Hagutnya swimming pool currently being upgraded? It's being upgraded. It finally is being upgraded after all these years. I had no idea. Good job, GovGuam. It took you all these years to fix a swimming pool. GovGuam must make maintenance a budget priority, not an afterthought. Every capital project should include a funded maintenance plan from day one. Agencies should be required to report on the condition of their assets annually. Lawmakers should stop approving new construction without asking what happened to the last building they funded. Stop buying what you cannot keep. Maintain what you have. The people of Guam deserve better than shiny things that rot. That is such a great editorial by the PDN. And so might I suggest to all of us in the media to follow this up with questions to the senators about what maintenance budget are you giving each of the agencies that have something to maintain? And are you asking the right questions? And is it being funded to a level that satisfies logic? For example, out of the three, if you're going to give $309 million to the Guam Department of Education, is that going to be another blank check for them to hand out pay raises to the superintendent and her team? Or is that actually going to be given to things that matter, like maintenance? Start with, it's start with the existing maintenance that needs to happen and add on the cost of the deferred maintenance issues that have been persisting year after year after year. If you know, as we build the apparently fix the Hagat swimming pool, are we including in the Department of Parks and Recreation budget the cost of maintenance, whether it's a contractual cost or an in-house cost? I mean, all of these things, they matter, right? PDN's got such a great point here. On the other side of the commercial break, we'll talk about legislation by Senator Sabina Perez that will, from my understanding, allow Guam Power Authority to act as an organizing agent, if not itself kind of like a developer, in getting solar panels on top of your rooftops so that we can build a more resilient power utility infrastructure against typhoons, against earthquakes, against all these other things that cause power outages, and for which the it takes longer to get back onto the grid based on the current system. Anyway, and this, something I'd never heard of before because I wasn't paying attention, a virtual power network that would be enhanced by this legislation that Senator Perez wants to do, that eventually would lead to reduced power costs for us all. Someone came to work, someone's finding solutions. We'll talk about that on the other side of this commercial break. Stick with us. I'm gonna eat some Cold Stone today. That's a great idea. Thanks, Troy, for that idea. Len Sullivan says, "Oh yeah, I hope they don't drive that armor rescue vehicle on the road like a regular vehicle on the road." You know they're absolutely gonna do that. You know, you know they're gonna. It's gonna be in this year's parade, my friend. They're gonna put that in the parade, and it's gonna say "Let's go Guam" on the side, but it's not gonna be in the font of the campaign. So they're gonna be able to say, "Oh, that wasn't campaign related. We're excited and we're saying let's go Guam." That's what's gonna happen, my friend. I'll tell you that. So it's absolutely going to be on the road with the rest of us. Senator Sabina Perez, she introduced legislation that I don't completely understand. I need to get more information about it, but in my reading of it, in my attempt to comprehend what it does. So currently there is a virtual, because of a public law passed by the, I think, 36th Guam legislature, and I'm not sure if she is the author of this public law, but there's something called a virtual power plant. So, okay, we have existing power plants, right? Like, for instance, the Ukudu power plant or the power plants. I'm not sure if they've all been decommissioned, but there's, for the longest time, Cabras Island was where most of the power plants were, right? Then we had Tangisan. Then that was, a lot of it was replaced. We have Ukudu now, right? We also have renewable energy plants and battery packs. We have mostly solar, large-scale utility solar farms that GPA owns, somebody else operates. We have battery facilities. So people who are all the anti-solar people, and I never understood why people were so anti-solar, right? It's like, literally, it's energy. It's free. And there's this utility that we use to harness it. And so normally the people who talk about their opposition to solar are like, yeah, but what happens when the night comes and there's no and the clouds cover the sun, as though the clouds cover the sun all the time in Guam. But what happens when the clouds cover the sun, and what happens when there's no more sunlight because it's nighttime? I'm like, wow, I really wish they would invent a technology where you could store energy inside of it and use that to like radiate energy outward, because it's not like we haven't had batteries in existence for centuries. But in terms of solar power, battery technology has existed for years already. And in fact, we have a battery farm. It's in Talafofo. So energy from the solar grid in certain areas is fed in. Anyway, so we had the battery space. That's not what's important here. So there are these generation sources that Guam Power Authority owns. There are other generation sources. There are generators, of course, but those aren't always running because they run on diesel and that's expensive. It's better to just hook up to the power system, right? But there also are businesses and homes who remain connected to the power grid, but are able to produce either some or all, and in many cases, more than they need power from solar panels that are on their rooftops. So back in I think it's the 36th Guam legislature or the 35th Guam legislature or something, the legislature created a virtual power plant, which, based on certain regulations, allowed, because all of these people, right, that are connected to the grid, that have these solar panels, they're connected to the grid, meaning they're connected to Guam Power Authority. And there's this thing where you can sell back power and all this stuff, right? So something called a virtual power plant was created under law that allowed GPA to organize, to coordinate the flow of power so that, especially when there's issues with peak demand and all this, they're able to gather the power and organize its generation, right? So it's like it's an additional power plant. It's not like it's a lot, but it's something, and it's worth something, right? Senator Sabina Perez wants to amend that virtual power plant to allow Guam Power Authority, along with limited cooperative associations, this is the part that I don't quite understand completely, right? To participate more fully in this virtual power plant. So instead of GPA being just the aggregator and the organizer and coordinator of this energy that's flowing into its grid, GPA will, I think, now be able to either coordinate with developers or itself act as a developer in getting, for example, right now, right? If you wanted solar panels on your home, you'd have to pay for that. You'd have to finance that yourself. Or you'd have to get with a company that gives you a financing option or whatever. You'd have to get it done yourself. If I'm not mistaken, if I'm understanding this bill correctly, Senator Perez's legislation, what she is wanting to do is to give GPA the authority to use its, it's got economies of scale, right? It's a large utility provider, and also use the economies of scale of a limited cooperative association or an LCA to be able to get more solar panels onto more homes. And I suppose there would be qualifications for this, and more businesses, so that this virtual power plant is larger. So it has the double effect of of lowering the power costs of whoever hosts these rooftop solar panels that feed into this virtual power plant, but it gets us much closer, much faster to a certain threshold that GPA has, where they get to, once they reach this threshold, and this is part of their integrated resource plan, they would be able to substantially reduce our power bills. And why this matters at a time like this and why it's so urgent is because of recent news, because of the Iran war, and recent news from GPA that they are staving off increases to our power bills, but they can only do that for so much longer because they only have so much in cash reserves. So what we're paying right now, what GPA is charging us in power right now, is as though they're pretending that the price of a barrel of oil is still at $98, when really they're anticipating that the price of barrel of oil could go up to as much as $300 per barrel. Can you imagine what would happen to our power bills if GPA had to raise the levelized energy adjustment clause fuel adjustment price or fuel recovery charge to actually meet the price of a barrel of oil if GPA didn't have these cash reserves to stave off a price increase? Our power bills, the average power bill, according to the literature and all this, would go up to almost $200 a month. Now, I don't know about you, but I am not looking forward to paying even $100 more a month for power, let alone $200 more a month for power. That is something that will exhaust finances and it will cripple people. There will be, I mean, it would just be a horrible thing. And by the way, everyone, in case you didn't know, like our LIAC is just so much less expensive than what it is in the CNMI. I don't know if it already has hit this, but I know that there was a proposal for the LIAC to be 44 cents per kilowatt hour over there. That is insane. I don't know how those people live. I do not know how people in Saipan live with that kind of power. Like, you just could not turn on the aircon. You definitely could not turn on the power of the water heater. You would absolutely not be able to use an electric range. Like, it's just, that's just bonkers, that kind of price over there. But anyway, we're trying to not get to that type of price. And this bill by Senator Perez, if I'm understanding it correctly, will help to lower our power bills, and that's always a good thing. On the other side of the commercial break, I want to bring you a video from NMI News Service that shows just a horrible scene, the destruction of a latte site in Saipan, and it's terrible. Stick with us.
Guam AutoSpot is extending our overstock sell-off with the hottest deals on island, like our 2025 GMC Canyon with $4,000 off, or slide into a brand new Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross, starting at just $24,995. September is your chance to drive big and save even bigger. Visit us today or get pre-approved online at guamautospot.com or call 478-AUTO. Guam AutoSpot, where the savings never stop.
Anytime you have heavy machinery that's operating around a sensitive archaeological site, especially an archaeological site that might contain human remains, you need to at least have an archaeological monitor there, and you need to go through the Section 106 process. Because I imagine that this debris removal that they're doing is going to be at least reimbursed by FEMA. So there really is no excuse.
The governor orders to put all this stuff. I'm asking, what is he doing? No? Holy shit. Look at what he did. I think that, boss, big problem. Hey! But don't touch the side right now. Fuck you. Look at. He bulldozed the other side. See? Dia laki seorang lah bulldoze tu. Look at that. Tak suka. No? Lihat. Apa bila adanya? Look. Cuma lagu meku. Oh, cara bila adanya. This stupid sih. Ya. Look, apa ini? Look ah. Cuma lagu meku, he don't want to listen to me. Look, where is he bulldozing this to? Maunya papalo. Maunya papalo dia dalam turun sign that tu. There's a sign right there. Right there.
Thanks, Brad, for calling. Yeah, I did glance briefly at the video. At this point, basically, I've asked my staff to provide me a sit rep of the activity for that area. We have daily reports that come into my office, basically outlining what the recovery effort my team had been doing for the day. I'm gathering this information so that I could determine which teams were actually out at the Obzan area conducting debris consolidation and piling. And from that point, I'm going to ask basically who had control over the payloader that was operating, and if they were aware of to avoid basically the latte sites, the sensitive areas that are of historical importance, and see what had gone wrong. Hopefully, no damages was done to the latte sites, but again, I have a couple guys that are going to be heading over to Obzan to investigate. I will notify HPO and let them know as well, so that they can also send some of their folks over to determine if there are any damages caused to these sensitive sites during the cleanup process.
And are these our guys, like our government employees, or are these like contractors that we have going out doing this?
So that I'm going to have to determine, because we do have a mix of government workers. We have Parks and Rec, we have DPW staff, and we also have workers from some of the legislative members. They have staff that was assisting also in the cleanup effort. So I'm going to find out exactly who was in the area, and then have them give their explanation of what they did for the day, and again, like what I was saying, more specifically, is who had supervisory control over the payloader, to determine if the spotters that were guiding the payloader were actually paying attention to avoid the sensitive areas, which is basically the historical site.
So can you tell us, like, what's the mission that they got? Was it just basically to do some debris clearing?
Correct. The mission for the folks that have been assigned to this is basically to cut, pile, and stage all typhoon-related debris, pick up trash, and place it in an area, so that when the Army Corps contractors come in to do the actual collection and removal, that it'll be at the ready. That's pretty much the mission that we've been doing since the typhoon had passed, is just collecting debris and staging it for later pickup.
All right, and just real quick, I mean, is this it's something normal? I wasn't used to seeing that big payloader on a beach. Are they normally allowed to get out there on the beach to do that kind of removal?
So Parks and Rec is the primary division under DLNR that maintains all parks and beaches. So I left it to their expertise and guidance in ensuring that if these equipments are being used on the beaches, that they do it in a manner that causes minimal disruption or damage to the area.
All right. So I know you've got to do some checking on some of this. Can we get an update from you later when you got some of that?
Correct. Absolutely. Like I said, I'll be reaching out to the folks over at HPO to to come in and do an assessment. We want to make sure that everything was done with hopefully no damages. Of course, CRM, I can also reach out to them to have them check the site out to also ensure that the equipment used wasn't damaging to the environment and to the beach. But yeah, this is one of the things that we have to utilize, because some of the debris, right, is not not manageable in a sense where staff can lift it and take it out towards the right of way. We would need some equipment like a claw truck, or in this case a payloader. But of course, the emphasis always for the operator and the staff that gives the direction, right, to be careful about all the sensitive areas, to include like obviously avoiding any type of vegetation that's endangered, or of course if there's known nesting of any type of animal or aquatic sea life like turtles, absolutely avoid it. And we can always come back later and deal with the trash or debris in a more sensitive manner.
Okay, great. And in the meantime, while we wait for all that update, any message you got for folks here in the Sinamai?
Yeah, I always ask for their continued patience and understanding. We have commenced the cleanup process. We are picking up the debris. The contractor hired by Army Corps has already started removing all typhoon-related debris. If homeowners know that there are debris piled on top of like water pipes or their meters, let us know so that we can remove the debris without causing further damage. Because a lot of people have lost water, and we've finally got water back, the service, right? And we don't want to bust pipes and disrupt their water service. So things of that sort, utility lines, for example, the Docomo or ITNE cable lines that goes into the house, the pedestals for the communication lines. If we have debris covering it, just let us know, and we'll make sure that the people removing the typhoon debris will not cause damage to these infrastructures.
Well, the payloader is gone now, and DPW's investigation continues. But what's so hard to fathom is how an island that lost so much during a super typhoon could have lost something maybe even more during the recovery. From Ojon Beach at the Latte site, Brad Rosala, NMI News.
Thank you so much, Brad Rosala and NMI News Service, for allowing us to use your work and to show our audience your work. And thank you so much for the reporting. So many complaints people have about what the military does within their bases, because, to be frank, the amount of land that the military has is ridiculous in this island, in Guam, and now in Tinian, and I don't know, I'm not sure what type of footprint that they want in Saipan, but at least in Guam, for the federal government to have 1/3 of our land area, well, there's going to be, because of how our 5,000 year history has been, ancient sites, archaeological sites. There's going to be ancient burial grounds. And we have always been up in arms about how the military treats those burial sites. And there have been problems in the past that have been, for the most part, rectified by federal and local processes that, for the most part, have been respected, at least recently, right? But we need to be equally outraged when it's done outside the fence. And I'll tell you this, it's not about military or non-military. That's not what causes this type of destruction. It's the almighty dollar. That latte site at Obzan survived probably 3,000 years of super typhoons. It survived Yutu, which is much stronger than Sinlaku, only to be destroyed by a payloader that probably should not have been on that beach, destroying critical habitat because of its weight and because of the emissions from it. Probably shouldn't have been on that beach. And for what? And how do you not recognize how do you not recognize a latte stone unless you have no knowledge of the history of the Chamorro people? And what you thought was some weird limestone rock formation on the beach, and you had no clue whatsoever that it was culturally and historically significant. And why would someone like that be in charge of a payloader on a beach where it's probably not supposed to be doing debris removal without the supervision that is required for something like that, and most likely without the permits? You heard the guy in the beginning talking about the Section 106 process. Most likely without the permits. What a travesty of a situation. And you know, where the almighty dollar is concerned, you're going to expect more stuff like this happening throughout the Mariana Islands if we don't rein these greedy corporations in. For Kandit News, I'm Troy Torres. You all have a wonderful day. Join me tonight for... If it's the Troy Torres Show, we will have more on the Behind the Bid investigative series into Simon Sanchez High School. If it's going to be the reality check with Michael St. Nicholas, I'm not sure what he'll talk about, but if he's doing the show tonight, that will give me time to publish more in the investigative series and Behind the Bid, the written stories, which is what I prefer to do. For Kandit News, I'm Troy Torres. You all have a beautiful day. God bless you all.